Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be talking about the severe weather potential across parts of Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. We'll also briefly talk about the flooding uh, threat that will continue on for across parts of the Great Lakes, Midwest, and even back down across parts of the plains as well. Flooding will likely continue in some of these places over the next couple of days or so. So let's go ahead and get started with the Storm Prediction Center outlook here. And as you can see here, we do have a slight risk for severe weather over really anywhere from eastern Colorado, the Panhandle in Texas, all the way up into parts of Illinois. This also goes through Kansas, northwestern Oklahoma, central Missouri, as well, and southern Nebraska. Then we got this little slight risk area up in northeastern Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and southeastern Michigan. This is definitely an interesting setup up here, and I won't be too surprised if these two cyclists do get connected in Indiana. And I'll show you guys why in a moment. Actually, let's take a look at those threats real quick. So here's your tornado probabilities. You can see with that at 5% up in southeastern Michigan, northeastern Indiana, northwestern Ohio. Got another 5% risk in east central Kansas. We may get to see a couple supercells out there. It's when eventually will congeal to another big mesoscale convective system out there. That's what I did not mean to do. And then take a look into the wind risk. Everybody will have a chance for some damage winds out there as well. And then hail threats kind of stays off to in the plains. There's even a chance for some significant hail, 2 inches diameter or larger hail in parts of the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle, and far southwestern Kansas as well. Now let's move on to day two, which is tomorrow. We got a slight risk for severe weather for east central New Mexico, parts of Texas, and southwestern Oklahoma. Primary threats, there's a low wind risk for tornadoes in parts of northwest central Texas. And you also got another 2% for eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, northwestern Indiana, southern Wisconsin, and into parts of central Michigan. Damage winds will also be there, and then hail will be a threat as well. Then on day three, we got a marginal risk for severe weather across parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes. So let's check out the HER model here, and we'll kind of get almost everybody in here. But the primary focus today, it's going to be across parts of northeastern Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and southeastern Michigan, and even down across parts of central Indiana as well. So a couple storms will go by uh, earlier today, and then we gotta watch for some of these new storms that form behind this big massive storms here and showers. These might become supercells later on. These will continue to move northeast and a little bit east as well. And check out all these storms that form out here. And there might be a chance for several supercells out in eastern Kansas as well. But the primary focus will be right in here for that possibility for a few supercells, which will actually take a look into some forecast soundings out there. And as we kind of continue on here, these will kind of cluster up, and your severe weather threat starts to go down as the sun goes down across parts of the Great Lakes of the Ohio Valley. You can see a couple good storms back in Illinois as well, around the Terre Haute area. And then those storms kind of die off, and then you get to see possibly a big cluster of storms back off to the west here, across parts of Kansas and Missouri as well. Still some uncertainties there with the Mesoscale convective system, but it's still something to watch for now. We'll put on the supercell composite here for the HER. If this is gonna load for me. I guess not. Okay, let's move on to the high-risk NAM real quick. And as you can see here, kind of similar situation. We'll have some showers and storms earlier in the day today. And then a couple of new storms may fire. Now, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me up here. There's not much of any development back across parts of Indiana in Illinois. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because whenever I show you guys the environment, it is still favorable for supercells, and I think we could get some storms to form along that frontal boundary right here, or alpha boundaries from these storms. We'll probably form some new storms out ahead of it. So let's get ready to take a look to some of these soundings here. Alright, we got the HRRR model up for supercell composite. So this is really the combination of wind shear and CAPE. And the HRRR model is pretty aggressive with this. We got numbers as high as a 34 into parts of central Indiana. That's a pretty high number. And if we take a look to this sounding right here, this is what we got here. So number one here is that we got a pretty good hodograph right here. You can see here we got that large curve going on here, so we can get some pretty good supercells with that type of hodograph. Critical angle number is pretty favorable with a 97, and also plenty of wind shear. Story to helicity numbers are at least double than what you will need or what's favorable for some severe weather. We're going to double that. Usually it's 150 and above. We're talking about numbers that's over 300. And it seems like the 3 kilometer numbers is pretty high as well, especially the energy helicity index as high as a 10.9. That's pretty high. There's going to be plenty of CAPE to work with as well. And it looks like this could be favorable for some damage winds with this sounding as well, which you have that dew point and temperature line a little bit spread apart in the low levels. Plus you got pretty good low level winds as well. Down there, CAPE not that impressive, but it'll still be favorable for some gusty winds. And then your low level lap rates will be favorable as well. That 3 CAPE numbers as high as a 76. It'd be favorable for tornadoes as well. And a couple analogs do show for the chance for some significant supercells as well. So that's a pretty good sounding right there for supercells in tornadoes. Not necessarily strong tornadoes. But if we go a little further up northeast, you can see here, the numbers are a little bit lower, but still favorable for supercells of tornadoes. You still got a good hodograph up here. Critical angle number is still a 78, or it is a 78. Story to helicity numbers are still favorable for severe weather. Your energy helicity index is pretty good as well. There's also, again, plenty of CAPE to work with as well. So really, with the combination of CAPE and wind shear, this is a pretty favorable environment here for tornadoes. You also have wind direction with height going on here. You got winds and surface coming from the south, but you also got at 850 millibars, you got winds coming from the southwest. That could create a little bit of spin in the atmosphere, at least in the low levels of the atmosphere. So there's plenty of wind shear out there to work with to get possibly some supercells, maybe even a couple tornadoes to get going as well. Then that threat starts to dissipate in the evening hours, and your threat looks like it moves up into parts of northeastern Ohio, or northwestern Ohio, I should say, and southeastern Michigan as well. And again, don't be surprised if the SPC again expands that slight risk into parts of central Indiana there as well. There's not really anything else to look on here. So let's take a look into the high-res NAM real quick. And as you can see here, like I was talking about there, where it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for thunderstorm development, check out these supercell composite numbers. Still favorable for some severe weather. We'll take a look to this 11 back in west central Indiana. And check this out. This will be favorable for some supercells of tornadoes as well. Got a pretty good hodograph here. Critical angle number is 101. You got wind direction with height going on here. You also got plenty of CAPE to work with as well, and also plenty of wind shear. So this is a pretty good sounding here for some supercells, and even for isolated tornadoes. And the reflectivities, this model is not showing any development here, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think there is going to be development in central Indiana. So your threat will probably get expanded into parts of Indiana as well. I think the HURL model, even though it's not been doing well this year, I think it's probably in a little bit more accurate solution than the HiRes NAM. We'll go a little bit up north to parts of northern Indiana. Check this out. And a little bit lower on the Cape, but still favorable for some severe weather. You only need over 1,000 joules per kilogram of Cape to get severe weather going. And there is a lot of storing to relate to Felicity. 904. That's a lot. Critical angle number is 96. You got a nice large hodograph as well. Plenty of wind direction with height as well. So this will also be favorable for some supercells as well. Just take a look at the sounding there. And then that threat kind of continues to move up into parts of northwestern Ohio as well. You can see here pretty much the similar way as the last sounding we take a look into. Let's get a sounding out in eastern Kansas here. It's got some pretty good supercell composite numbers out here. This is where we're going to have that warm front kind of in place here. And wow, that is a lot of Cape. In this model, typically it's a little bit overkill with Cape, so maybe back that off. Maybe about 1,000 joules per kilogram. But that's still a lot of Cape either way. I mean, you'll get some big time thunderstorms. I mean, that is really high up there. But you do have a pretty good hodograph here. There is just enough storing velocity to get some tornadoes going, or at least some isolated tornadoes. So this will also be favorable for some tornadoes as well. You also do have a little bit of wind direction of height as well. So this sounding will be pretty good for some, at least for a couple supercells as well. Looks like large hail might be a possibility with that sounding as well. And then why not take a look into the next day here, see what it's got here. It's got some decent supercell composite numbers in Illinois here. We'll take a look at this. This is another pretty good sounding right here. And check out the precipitable water numbers. And when you have precipitable water numbers, 2.31 inches of precipitable water, which just means just how much moisture that's up in the atmosphere. That's a pretty high number. That's pretty impressive. Precipitable water number. Any storm that develops within that range of that precipitable water, it's going to dump a whole lot of rain in a short period of time, and that's going to lead to some flash flooding, which kind of leads to the next part of the video in a moment. But with precipitable water number of 2.31 inches, that's a lot. That's actually pretty high. And again, you got a pretty good hodograph here. Critical angle number is pretty good as well. You do have some wind direction with height as well, so this will even be favorable for maybe an isolated tornado as well. But that's the highest number out there, so let's kind of go a little bit outside of that. Let's check this out. And yeah, that's why you don't always want to look into the highest number every single time, because that's just one very small area. If you actually kind of look to the outside here, it's a different story. You can see here the hodograph is way too small, in my opinion, here for tornadoes. But in the mid-levels here, story to Felicity is actually favorable for maybe a possible tornado in those mid-levels there. But this isn't a completely garbage hodograph for an isolated tornado. Maybe at least for a weak spin up, maybe a possibility in this sounding. But we'll see about that as well. But it ain't completely terrible sounding. And you can see here, it even continues on into later on here. Here's around Chicago here. You can see here, it's another decent forecast setting as well. Plenty of wind shear, plenty of Cape to work with as well. Not a whole lot of wind direction or height to work with. It kind of goes south until you kind of get to 850 millibars. It goes a little southwest there. So there'll be a little bit of wind shear to work with. So maybe an isolated tornado, possibly, tomorrow. So that's why we have that 2% out there as well. And we're kind of going backtrack a little bit to what will be happening later today. This is similar to the outbreak of back in August 24th of 2016. Pretty similar setup. This is what we kind of call an analog. And this is, again, a similar setup here, but keep in mind, not every analog works out perfectly. So I would take, so that means don't think that this will happen again. Is it possible? Maybe. I mean, it could happen, but it's just an analog. And you guys probably heard of me saying analogs before. When I do winter forecasts, long range forecasts, we use analogs. And you see that analogs don't work out all that well sometimes. But there's other times that it works out. So I would take this maybe a little bit of a grain of salt here. But it is still a similar setup either way. So there might be a possibility. The possibility could be there that we may see a repeat of this, but I honestly have a little bit of doubts on that. But don't really think too much about that. The tornado outbreak will be happening today. Don't think too much about that. If I can move this thing here, there we go. You can see here what happened back on August 24th of 2016. We had tornado warnings for Indianapolis, even for the metro of Fort Wayne, and all the way up to parts of Toledo. There were 35 tornado reports, 51 tornado warnings, and only 2 tornado watches as well. So this was a pretty bad day here for parts of Indiana and Ohio. And again, could we see a repeat of this? It's a possibility. I mean, it is just an analog, and keep in mind, not every analog works out 100% perfect. Sometimes it even doesn't work out at all. So just to keep in mind of that. But yeah, it is a similar environment to this, so that's why I kind of making the video kind of a little special, because could there be a repeat of this? Maybe. We don't exactly know. But it does show a pretty similar setup to this either way. But it is going to be something to watch very closely later today. Here's my forecast map here for later today. Any areas in the red here, which is pretty much for central and northeastern Indiana, northwestern Ohio, it even includes parts of southeastern Michigan as well. This is where we have the potential for some isolated tornadoes, and even maybe for a few supercells are also possible as well. So really anybody that lives in parts of Indianapolis, Lafayette, Fort Wayne, Lima, Finlay, I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure, Toledo, maybe into parts of the southern metro of Ann Arbor and Detroit as well. Maybe even as back as far as what southwest as Terre Haute, Indiana as well. I think most of your severe weather threat will stay north of Interstate 70 and probably north and east of Interstate 74 and probably south of Interstate 94 as well. So that's kind of your interstate corridors kind of put in as well. So again, this is still something to watch here fairly closely here over the next several hours as well. Let's actually take a look to the SPC Mesoscale analysis. I just realized it is 3 o'clock. So we'll quickly take a look to this really quick before we move into a couple other things here. So let's kind of check out and see what's going on here. There's a new severe thunderstorm watch out west. Let's check out the supercell composite numbers. You can see here it's not terribly high or anything like that. It's right anywhere from a 2 to looks to be a 4 as well. We'll take a look to those significant tornado parameters. You can see here, it seems like some of the highest numbers are back in Illinois, but keep in mind it is still 3 o'clock. There's still several hours of daytime heating left. Not really seeing much of any development out there for right now. Here's the surface space cape. It seems like the models are doing well with that so far. You got this 1000 line right here. You can see here up in northwestern Ohio, we got numbers below 1000, but keep in mind these numbers are still going up. It's 3 o'clock. I'll say those areas will likely get above 1000 joules per kilogram of cape before storms will start to fire up as well. Check out how much wind shear there is out there, and yeah, there is a lot of wind shear. I mean, 40 to 45 knots of wind shear, that's a lot. Even 50 knots of wind shear back in parts of Indiana. I mean, that is a lot of wind shear to work with here with some of these thunderstorms as well. Let's see if there's anything else we want to look into before we get out of this section here. And I don't really think so here. Here's the significatory parameters in the effective layer. And keep in mind, these numbers will probably be going up. Will go up later as the day kind of goes on here. But then again, it's something to watch very closely here over the next several hours as well. So let's finally move into the last section of the video, and that is the flooding. And I know there's a lot of areas that has received a lot of rain, especially across parts of northwestern Missouri, northeastern Kansas, southeastern Nebraska as well. They received a heck ton of rain up here. I think there were some places that got 7, 8 inches of rain, maybe. I'm not sure, but I do know there has been some major flooding problems up there, especially when that Mesozoic convective system was moving by yesterday. And some of these places already received a lot of rain and they do not need any more rain. And check out how much rain is coming in for the next 5 days here. Yeah, this is 5 days here, folks. And anybody in the red, that's 2 to 4 inches of rain. And anybody in these yellow or brown colors, that's 4 plus. And you can see here the weather prediction does have some places 4 plus inches of rain as well. And there is going to be isolated areas that can see more than this. I guarantee you that. And let me show you the highest NAM for the rainfall totals. And you can see here, the models have done alright with some of these rainfall totals. Some of them may be a little bit overkill. But either way, there's still a lot of rain that could fall out there. You got some places that might see maybe another inch or two of rain. But then you got some other areas that might could see possibly maybe 6 plus inches of rain in some places. In this stationary front right here, it's going to be slowly moving to the southeast here with time here. So it won't be too much longer before areas southeast of that will start to experience some showers and thunderstorm action here. But check out these rainfall totals in southeastern Kansas, parts of Missouri, and Oklahoma. It's got a widespread 5 plus in a lot of places here. It's even got almost a foot of rain to parts of Missouri, which is probably a little bit overkill. But either way, a lot of rain is still coming for some of these places in here, and flooding will become a big concern here over the next couple of days here. And we'll check out the excessive rainfall outlooks from the Weather Prediction Center, and you can see here, here's day 1. We got a moderate risk for excessive rainfall or flash flooding in general for southeastern Kansas, northern Missouri, south central Illinois, into west central Indiana as well. And then as we move on to tomorrow, there's a large slight risk area really from the parts of northwest central Texas all the way up into parts of Michigan and Wisconsin. And then on day 3, we got another slight risk for southeastern New Mexico into parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and the Ozarks as well. There is some good news on the way for parts of the desert southwest. The latest CPC outlook has a decent probability for rain across these areas in here in the next 6 to 10 days. So that's some good news for anybody watching this from the desert southwest. Rain is coming, thankfully, for you guys. Unfortunately for the northwest, hot and dry weather will still stick around, but I think you guys will get your chance very soon for the rain and stuff like that. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you really like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put it in the comment section down below. I answer you guys questions, and I see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.